Welcome to episode 2 of this video series where I talk to people who credit emotional freedom technique for making a profound change in either their life or the lives of people that they work with. My name is Mary Jane Sharratt and I am an EFT practitioner and trainer, and I have worked with thousands of people and trained hundreds of new practitioners over the past few years. And I am really delighted today to welcome Hayley Franklin, who has joined us to talk about her experience as an EFT practitioner using EFT for herself and with her clients. Hello, Hayley. Great to see you.
Hello, Mary Jane. Thank you for having me on.
It's really great to see you here. So, Hayley, tell me what brought you to EFT in the first place, if you could.
So, I guess I first found EFT probably about 6 or 7 years ago. And if I'm really honest, I thought it was a bit woo-woo and weird.
Yeah.
And I just didn't have the time in my days to explore it a bit more. And then in 2021, I fell really ill with long COVID. So, I was both vaccine injured and virus injured. And I started to explore the mind-body connection a bit more. And you know how these things happen. EFT suddenly popped up on my phone, and I thought, oh, there's that technique which I didn't get to explore before.
Yeah.
I'm going to spend some time seeing what that's like. And I did, and I saw such huge changes in my recovery.
Fantastic. And was that from using it on yourself? Did you work with a practitioner? How did that manifest?
So, first of all, I started off finding out a bit more about it. So, looking into the research behind it, what exactly was going on in my body when I tap. I then investigated some online videos and apps,
Yeah.
and I could see shifts in my recovery. And I thought, well, if I can do this working very generically with something that's not specifically tailored to me, I wonder what will happen when I work specifically on my issues.
Yeah.
So I have worked with a practitioner. And then I found you and I explored the training, and level one training for me was just kind of mind blowing. It just allowed me to think, okay, I've got this symptom or this emotion, this sensation. I can now construct the language that I want to use to tap on. And I literally saw my recovery going in huge leaps.
Fantastic. And you know, for me, that's one of the great gifts about EFT is that we're helping people to help themselves. It's so empowering, isn't it? Once they learn the language and how to structure the tapping, it's actually pretty straightforward.
I think that for me was the biggest thing, that I had tried talk therapy and I had never in my life ever had talk therapy before.
Yeah.
I went to explore the long COVID, the emotions that had come up with the long COVID. And the first two sessions were great. And I
Hmm.
thought, yeah, I've got a captive audience here. Someone's listening to me, they're invested in me. And then as the sessions went on, I was coming away feeling heavier and heavier and feeling like I hadn't actually shifted anything. Nothing had changed about me. And all I'd done is resurfaced things and not really processed them.
Yeah.
And in reality, I was already having those conversations that I was having with the counselor in my own head and with my friends and family.
Yes.
I knew that I needed something different, and
Yeah.
I needed something that allowed me to get into my body, to
Yeah.
work very somatically with me, and to help shift the stuff that I'd been carrying, some of which for a long time, but also help me work through the emotions of having long COVID.
Yeah. Could you sum up for people who maybe aren't familiar with the term somatic therapy, how EFT is somatic and what that really means as well? Would you be able to do that?
Yeah, so somatic comes from the Greek word soma, which is the body. So what we do with the EFT is we get into the body and we start to process what's happening in the body.
Mm.
So a lot of times when I'm working one-to-one, we're looking at a sensation in the body and how that sensation might be connected to an emotion,
Mm.
it might be connected to an event, and we're working with that sensation. Sometimes not to get rid of it, but sometimes to work through it and see
Mm.
changes in it. Because I think sometimes people think, oh gosh, if I've got to get rid of it, that's quite a scary thought. Whereas actually bringing in a kind of mindful approach to it and being able to sit with it, be
Mm.
comfortable with that, welcome it in, like welcome it in for a cup of tea.
Yeah.
What emotion do you associate with that sensation?
Mm.
just growing a bit more awareness and acceptance of it. And often in doing that, people will see shift and like, okay, so I had this tight knot in my stomach and now it's gone.
Yeah.
And you can see them look quite puzzled, like, well,
Where is it? Where is it now? Where's it gone? Yeah.
um, so a lot of what I do is about bringing acceptance,
Mm.
a lot of work around compassion, because I think compassion for ourselves is something we often don't have.
Mhm.
So growing that whilst working with the body. So a very body-based practice.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right because when something shocking or bad or sudden happens, we actually get a body feeling before our mind processes what has happened. And I find so often going back to that first moment of feeling something in the body is where the real gold is. That's, it's magic when you can start to, as you say, accept, acknowledge, okay, I had that punch in the stomach feeling when I heard that bad news. And we start there. Not always. Sometimes we start with a sort of named emotion, but I think the naming the emotions is almost secondary, isn't it?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And actually, I work with a lot of people in the neurodivergent community who struggle with emotions. I
Yeah.
work with a number of people who are alexithymic, so they can't name emotions.
Yes.
They don't understand what an emotion feels like, but
Mm.
what they can feel is a sensation in their body.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
often, rather than going to a feelings wheel, for example, and talking about an emotion, we might say, okay, well, where do you feel that in your body?
Yeah.
You feel it in my solar plexus. Okay, and what color is it? What does it feel like? Is there a sound with it? Does it move?
Yeah.
And so we go to the sensation in the body.
Yes.
And then sometimes that might lead to an emotion. So, oh,
Mm.
yeah, actually, I call that frustration or whatever.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Sometimes the emotion is really the secondary part to the sensation in the body.
I really agree. So that's really somatic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because we are working with the body. And I think that's so interesting. And people often have body sensations that are so familiar to them, aren't they? And, it's almost become, well, that's normal that I'm holding my shoulders up here. Oh, and it feels a bit strange when we let that go. And we almost have to reprogram the body in a way to accept this kind of new relaxed shoulder approach, don't we?
Absolutely. And one of the other things I love about EFT is that you can take parts of other practices and put it with EFT. So you can bring in some breath work to help, lower that tension. So as you breathe in, you're releasing a bit of that tension out of your body. You can bring in some mindfulness, bring in some elements of meditation. There's bits of NLP in there, bits of CBT.
Yes.
So I see it as a wonderful practice that takes the best bits of lots of things and puts it together.
Yeah, I agree. And for me, it's incredibly flexible. I train practitioners in, your classic EFT techniques, and they learn those, and I try and teach them as cleanly and purely as possible, based on the founder's teachings. But then people can bring in all sorts of interesting things, and I love how different people are using EFT in the world and adapting it to different sensations, different therapies, bringing in lots of other things. It's fantastic.
It is fascinating when we're in supervision, just hearing how people are using EFT alongside other practices. And
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
working with dogs and their owners, and I'm working in the health industry and food and nutrition. And I think it lends itself to so many different aspects out there.
I totally agree. I think it just, yes, it's so adaptable. It's fantastic. So, Hayley, you're now an advanced practitioner
Mhm.
and you're having, I don't know, have you 100% recovered, would you say, from your long COVID, or is it an ongoing process?
Um, that's an interesting question because I don't think I will ever go back to being the Hayley that was before. So this
Mhm.
is Hayley version 2.0. Um, I've learned so much about me as a person, about my body, the mind-body connection, about my own personality traits and how they impact things, how they impact my energy, for example. I don't think I will ever go back to being that pre-COVID person,
Mhm.
but I think this is a better version of me. There
Okay.
are still, hopefully, there are still one or two aspects of me that is not recovered, like I'm now what? over 3 years in, and every now and again I still get an incredibly strong smoke smell.
Oh yeah.
I had right at the beginning of COVID. And usually that's a sign to me that I've perhaps done a little bit too much. I need to step back and rest a bit more.
Mm,
But that can really take me off my feet. And it kind of feels like it fills up my lungs and takes hold of my body.
yeah.
I do have to pace a lot.
Yeah.
Um, and so whilst I have gone back into part-time work that I was doing pre-COVID, I
Yeah.
won't ever go back to that full-time because I've got a really healthy balance now between teaching part-time and doing therapy work part-time, which for me is really nourishing.
Yes. And sometimes we need these not really at all pleasant wake-up calls to really make us assess life and think, actually, the life I was living was not a healthy life. So
I,
it makes us make
yeah.
those changes, doesn't it? Yeah.
Oh, yes. I, for a long time, had been thinking, oof, this treadmill is going a little bit too fast for me.
Yeah.
Um, but you get caught up in the whirlwind of life, and sometimes you don't quite know how to step off that. And you're right, it does take a big event, as
Yes.
hard as that is to manage, to make you have some time to reassess things.
Yes.
And that time out of work and that time that I spent recuperating, I have just learned so much.
Mm.
It it wasn't a wasted time. If anything, I see it almost as a bit of a gift to me, a gift to reassess me, my life, what I want to be doing, the direction I'm going in. So it seems a bit strange to say so, but I do see COVID as a gift and something that I have, something positive has come from it.
Yeah, no, I completely understand that. And I've spoken to so many people who said, that dark night of the soul, dark week, month, year of the soul was actually the best thing that could have happened to them because
Definitely,
it forced them to make the changes they needed to make. Yeah,
definitely.
fantastic. So Hayley, tell us now about some of the incredible work you've referenced that you're working quite a lot with people who would consider themselves to be neurodiverse.
Mhm.
But I think you're also doing quite a lot with the long COVID community as well. So tell us a bit about some of that because it's really fascinating and yeah, it brings joy to my heart when I hear about what you're up to.
So, back in the beginning of 2022, I joined an online long COVID community aimed at bringing joy, happiness, creating a community with people who were struggling with their long COVID recovery. And that community is called Susie Bolt, Rest, Repair, Recover. And at the start, I was so poorly. Literally every part of my body was in a state of dysfunction, dysregulation. They thought that I had had a stroke. I'd lost a lot of feeling in my right hand side. I couldn't undo a tin. It took me 18 months to be able to undo a tin of beans. And when I could do that, it was like I was jumping around the kitchen with joy that I've actually managed to open a tin of beans again.
Right.
That was what I was dealing with in my body. And that community online allowed me to do gentle exercise, breath work, mindfulness with a community of people who were going through the same thing. Because at the time, there's quite a lot of denial that people could be this ill.
I think there was a bit of gaslighting
There's
going
a
on.
lot of gaslighting,
Yeah.
yeah. And I
And
remember,
just for people who are interested, there is a link below the video to susiebolt.com. So people can look that up as well. But yeah, sorry, okay, Hayley
okay,
Cam.
so yeah, I'd go to the GP and they'd almost go down a script. So are you stressed? No. Are you anxious? No, that's not the cause of it. Is it the menopause? No, it's not the menopause. And they'd kind of have a script and they would ignore the fact that my body was in the state of dysregulation that it was. So this community was wonderful to join. And although the first class I could do next to nothing,
Mm.
over time, I built up my strength. I built up a really great understanding of the mind body connection through that group and also that community sense that we were in it together. And I now work on a Thursday in that community, giving back as a teacher. So I lead Thursday tapping with Hayley, and we tap on whatever issues the community would like to tap on.
Mm.
So this week, for example, we are tapping on letting go. So they're coming along with something that they'd like to let go of, and we're going to be tapping through that. Um, so they are a wonderful community that are literally around the world. So I log on a Thursday and I might have people in Greece, France, Germany, the Netherlands, literally around the world. And everything that we do in class is recorded, and then people can watch in the community on demand as well. So I've had people in Australia contact me and say, I watch your videos on demand because of the time
Yeah.
differences, but I've seen such a change in my long COVID journey. So that's what I do on a Thursday. And then I work one-to-one with a number of that community.
Okay. And I think you said you maybe have hundreds of people joining, sometimes from their bed.
Yes, literally. So when I log on each week, there's usually around 500 people that have booked into the session.
Yeah.
I have about 50, 60 come live, and
Mhm.
then others watch on demand. And they are at all stages of recovery. So there are some people who have gone back to work and
Mhm.
they've got an hour free and they think, I'll just join the tapping class this morning. And right down to the other end where I've got people joining from their beds. And that's quite normal to see,
Yeah.
look on the Zoom gallery and see a number of people in their bed, others lying on the floor, others sitting upright, others starting upright and then going to their bed partway through the session. And that's okay because
Mhm.
we know that recovery is like this.
Yes.
And you will have days when you are better in your bed, other days when you can manage joining a class sitting up. So it's an incredibly inclusive community that
Mhm.
welcomes everybody going through not just long COVID, but also any other recovery. So that could be managing ME, CFS, fibromyalgia,
Yeah.
recovery after an operation, cancer journey. We are working with people and their nervous systems just to bring greater calm to them.
Mhm. How amazing. And
So
I love the idea of, I'm big on community, and I have a lovely community of EFT practitioners, but, I love this idea of community. I think it's greatly underrated sometimes, isn't it? The power of community, and it doesn't matter if people are in different places in the world on different time zones, just knowing that it's not just you, you're not just alone. You've got this community that you can call on and that's there to support you. I think that's so powerful.
it is so important. And I know a lot of the community will be living by themselves.
Mm.
So, when I start the class on a Thursday, I make a point of welcoming everybody by name because do you know, that might be the only time in the day that somebody actually uses
Mm.
their name. That may be the only time during the day that someone sees them, albeit it's on screen.
Mhm.
You have to be really mindful of everybody's personal circumstances and welcome everybody in and just know that they are not alone on that journey.
Yeah, amazing. Well, that's fantastic work. And then I interrupted, but you were telling us about your one-to-one work as well.
So, yeah, so I work one to one with quite a few of that community as well, and also one to one face to face locally. And so I've worked with people who have been on their own journey to recovery. They have been wheelchair bound, and then after several sessions, they have gotten themselves out of a wheelchair. They've been walking around. I worked with a client this week whose passion before falling ill was swimming, and she was heartbroken at not being able to swim. And then last week went swimming twice. And she's like, I'm certain this is EFT. It's accelerated my recovery.
Fantastic.
And it's when you hear those kind of stories that you think, wow, this really is powerful.
Mm.
Somebody else in the community last week said to me, so I've been coming to your Thursday tapping classes, and something came up for me, and I felt really tense and stressed. And I was like, what do I do? I'm going to try tapping. I don't know if I'm going to say the words right, but I'm going to give it a go.
Mhm.
And she said, I started tapping, and after like 10 minutes, it was like a thermometer, and the stress was just literally dropping like this.
Lovely.
And it's like, wow. And
Mm.
so everybody, it does work. It does work. You can tap on yourselves.
Yeah,
So,
that's,
yeah,
that's
fabulous,
amazing.
fabulous stories.
And I think you're also doing a bit in schools.
I am, yeah. So I've I've been teaching for 25 years,
Mhm.
and teenagers, I just love working with teenagers. They are our future, and I think we should nurture them and grow them to be the best they can be. And when I hear statistics like, I think Young Minds published a statistic recently that said 1 in 5 young people between 8 and 25 have a mental health condition. I find that so saddening.
Mm.
And so I'm really lucky now to combine my teaching experience with my EFT. And I work in a school and I work with small groups and also one-to-one, supporting young people with whatever issues come up. So it might be anxiety about coming to school, it could be anxiety about exams, it could be anger issues, really whatever comes up for them. I bring EFT into that along with lots of other things just to help calm their nervous system. And I just make sure that by the end of that 6 weeks period that I've worked with them, they leave with the tools to be able to use some of these strategies themselves. And I keep saying to them, EFT is literally at the end of your fingertips. It is there, it's there for you to use. It's a powerful tool and take it forward. And to hear them say to me weeks later, oh, yes, I sat in the Wellbeing Hub and I shared tapping with the other children that were sitting in the hub. I was like, great, yeah, this is working.
That is a real ripple effect, isn't it? And when young people hear it coming from their peers, they're not going to think it's weird or wacky or
No,
woo-woo, are they? It's going to be,
no.
okay, it's just, and wouldn't that be a great way that if everybody in the world just tapped,
Yeah.
that
I mean,
would,
I love these stories that come out of Australia where they're starting the school day with like 15 minutes of tapping to calm the nervous system before
yeah,
students start learning, and then a bit of tapping at the end of the day so they're
yes,
nice and calm for going off home. I
exactly.
think, wow, that if the UK could embrace that, that would be incredible.
It really would make a difference. So on that note, Hayley, what would you love to see in the world of EFT? How would you love to see it going into the world over the next few years?
Ooh. Well, I'd love to see it growing more in schools and for there to be more wonderful head teachers like my own who are open to embracing something a little bit different and bringing that into schools to support the students. I think more widely in society, I would love EFT to be better understood
Mm.
and to be recognised by places like the NHS and recommended for people because it's so versatile, so adaptable that we could use it to support so many more people out there and to have a real impact on lessening some of those shocking statistics that we're seeing all the time in the news about mental health. So that's really where I'd love it to go. And I guess I feel really honoured to be someone out there amongst lots of others in the community who are spreading the word about EFT and getting it out there and heard and used as much as possible.
Well, you're really doing an amazing job with that. So
Thank you.
thank you for that. And I always say my passion is to get EFT out there, just to get more people using it. And you're doing, really making your mark there. So if people want to get a hold of you, you've got a website and various social links, haven't you? So I'll share all those below so people can get in touch with you if they need to. So Hayley, thank you so, so much for your time today. Thank you so much for all the work you're doing with the long COVID community and in schools and all the other things you're doing to make a big difference in the world. It's just so valuable.
Thank you very much for having me and for allowing me to share a bit of my story and what I'm doing.
My absolute pleasure.
Thank you.